Hi, my name is David Brown. I'm a teacher. I've been working in the field of deafblindness for over 30 years, and I've been working since 1983 with children with Charge syndrome. I've been asked today to talk for 5 minutes about assessment, specifically looking at the younger children, the early intervention end of the age spectrum. Assessment is a huge, complicated topic. So I've had problems deciding what to say and what not to say, and I've come up with some ideas. Right at the beginning, I'd like to refer you to this article. Um, it's from our newsletter. It was just published last week. It's called "What Does Follow the Child Mean?" And it's an article where I've tried for the second time to describe a certain philosophy of approaching assessment, and that's what I'll be talking about quite a lot in this little talk. I decided, I think, okay, if I were a parent and I had a young child with charge and somebody was coming in to do an assessment, or we were going somewhere to have an assessment, and it was an assessment of a kind of educational, psychological, developmental kind, rather than a strictly medical assessment. And I've come up with a couple of thoughts. First of all, it's important to remember that experience and expertise of charge is very rare. So it's unlikely that you're going to meet professionals with previous experience. And even then, previous experience doesn't guarantee that they'll be good at what they're doing. But if there's some previous experience with charge, it could be a good indicator, but that's not very likely to happen for most of you in most cases. So you're going to have to set the scene to some extent. And if I were a parent, I would set certain things as non-negotiable. First of all, I'd want this person to learn some basic things about charge before they begin their assessment procedure. I would be willing to provide that information. There's lots of information out there on the internet. There are links on the Charge Foundation website which will point you to great sources of information. I would highlight sections of articles to help professionals so they don't have to read the whole thing. But I would really want to get that information across to them. The other non-negotiable would be that I would want them to listen to me while I give them my take on certain aspects of the child that I think would be relevant for their assessment and the topic that they're trying to get information on. I would push the idea that everything my child does has meaning for them, and the prime job of assessment is to identify and understand that meaning, rather than coming in and measuring my child against some set of rules or skills to see if the child passes or fails. I would say, no, 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 no. This is about my child, and we're focusing on my child. I would say a big no-no on deficit assessment. If they're only there to find the things that my child can't do, then I would show them the door and say, no, thank you. The emphasis needs to be on positive outcomes, positive insights that are going to help to educate the child more effectively. What else was I going to say? I would suggest that they focus on what the child is doing and what the child does, rather than being too anxious about what the child can do if you push them. There's a time for pushing and stretching and encouraging a child, but just observing and assessing what they do all by themselves can give you a lot of useful information, whether you're a speech pathologist, a physical therapist, a vision teacher, a deaf teacher, or a psychologist, whoever. I would especially emphasize the importance for children with charge of posture and physical supports, because we all know that people with charge develop postural control very slowly and with great difficulty. It's a combination of vestibular difficulties, vision difficulties, low muscle tone, and poor generally poor multisensory perception. And it's not unusual for me to see young children with charge who, if they're flat on their back with one ankle up on the other knee, can use vision and can use hearing and can use their hands quite impressively. But if you lift them up and sit them on your lap, they go blind, they go deaf, and their muscle tone decreases massively. And you've kind of lost all the positive things of the child. So I would suggest whoever the assessor is, they need to go with the postures that the child is most secure in and most comfortable in. I think if I can go back to my article, I'm very much a disciple of Jan van Dijk, and you'll find lots of information by him on the internet. Towards the end of my article, I have a section that I call, What Are You Observing For? And this is a list very much taken from Van Dijk, and then I've expanded a little bit on some of the points. But you're looking for things like the child's ability to maintain or change their state, their arousal level. So does the child get drowsy and drowsy and drowsy and lose it? Or do they get hyper and hyper and get out of control? Or are they able to maintain a reasonably active but calm level of arousal? Which are the child's preferred learning channels? Are they visual learners? Are they hearing learners? Are they doing, touching learners? Are they moving learners? And so on. How well does the child recognize and anticipate routines? And if they do understand routines, how well can they cope when the routine changes, when it goes wrong in some way? How well do they solve problems? How well do they form social attachments and interact with other people? And can they differentiate between people? I've seen children scooting around on their backs where parents have told me that the child doesn't know them from any other person. But then as I observe for half an hour, I notice, for example, that the child scoots around and always comes back to his mom's feet as a resting point over and over. That kind of observation tells you that the child actually is aware that his mom is different to the other people in the room and maybe more special. And then the whole business of communication, and does the child have expressive behaviors with intent to communicate or not, and those kinds of things. So that was a very quick overview. I really would stress again the importance of getting the physical postures right for your child, because that can make or break the positive outcome of the assessment. And I hope this little talk will inspire you to look further, to get on the internet, to start digging around in information and articles and compiling the kinds of ideas that you need to influence these people who are going to be assessing your child. Thank you.